your host, Cynthia J.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome. We know that it's your favorite place to be on a Tuesday evening, and I thank you in advance for joining us. I am Satara J, your host of your favorite sports show, Get in the Game. And you know what Tuesday means. We are in the middle of our fantastic series. It's been phenomenal. If you haven't been watching our episodes, don't worry, head over to our YouTube channel, Get in the Game with Satara J, and you can catch up on everything you've missed. But since you're here this evening, Life After Football with my special guest, Mr. Nigel Eldridge, former NFL linebacker, and we have been having an amazing offline conversation, so hopefully, as you know I like to do, I can bring some of that conversation in with you here live as we begin this conversation. Welcome, Mr. Eldridge, to the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, as you know, our series, Life After Football, so obviously we're going to talk about everything you went through as a linebacker, how you got there, and then how you transitioned. First thing I do want to ask you, though, let our audience know, where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from Augusta, Georgia.
Okay.
Went to high school in Montgomery, Alabama, and graduated high school from Lanier. Left Lanier, went to UAB, Alabama, in Birmingham, on a full ride scholarship for football.
Mm-hmm.
From there, was given the opportunity to start. 3-year starter there. Went to the school's first bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Hawaii. From there, had the opportunity to be drafted, but I hurt my foot, so kind of backlashed me a little bit and took a step back. And from there, I was a free agent for the Tennessee Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, Chicago gave me my first offer, and I declined.
Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears. I declined that offer just due to a little bit more financial stability and a chance of making the team at Tennessee. So I went to Tennessee for a year there as a rookie,
Mm-hmm.
and left Tennessee that following summer and went to Detroit, where the 2005 season I broke my foot on a
Wow.
Monday night game. So
Wow. So let's back up a little bit, because you just fast forwarded your whole life. He took the fun out of me getting to ask these questions. But it's okay, guys. I'm going to handle it. That's what professional interviewers and reporters do. So I got your back. We're going to reverse them. Okay, so from Augusta, Georgia, you end up at UAB to play football. So did you play any other sports in high school besides football?
I wrestled. I won a state championship in wrestling.
Okay, so how does one decide, I'm going to try to go to school and get a football scholarship versus wrestling? Because wrestling's pretty
it was
cool.
tough. I like the camaraderie of football,
Mm-hmm.
and wrestling was more of an individual sport, but it kept me in shape in the off season. I was good at it, but I didn't really see a career path in it. I didn't want to do the WWE wrestling, which actually turned out to be pretty good for some people
Yeah.
in the long run, but it just wasn't an aspiration that I had for myself.
Yeah, and so when you are looking at the opportunities that you may have to go play football somewhere, do you pick UAB because it's close to home, or was it just the best opportunity for you?
It's funny you ask that. So, I had offers all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Could have went as far north as Michigan on a full ride, as far south as University of South Florida, all the way to the University of Southern California. I chose UAB because it was the only in-state offer that I had at a Division I school, and due to my mom being on probation and unable to leave the state, she told me she wouldn't be able to make most of my games, so I stayed local in order for her and my little brother to come and see me play.
Now, this is a question I don't ask often, but you made a point that you decided, so you're what, 17, 18 at the time?
17.
So you make a grown man decision to stay at home for your mom's sake. Is that something you regret?
Sometimes I do, yeah, because it's all, you always wonder, is the grass greener on the other side? Wonder if I went to a bigger school like Michigan, would I've gotten more exposure, and would they have helped me taking care of my body a lot better than what I did at UAB, and would I've learned the ins and outs of the game from a coaching aspect as well. So there's always that
Yeah, yeah.
question.
One thing we do know for sure is that you didn't get exposed to the snow, because I don't know if you've ever been to Michigan, but I'm from up north, and the snowstorms in Michigan, you probably missed out on being closed in.
Well, keep in mind I did go to Detroit and play, so
Right,
I ended
okay,
up
so
in
you
the
got
snow
that. Anyway, right. So one thing we were talking about offline that I always like to ask is you chose UAB. Obviously, there are some pretty decent HBCUs in Alabama. One thing you mentioned was, you just said that you wonder if your body, you could have been taken better care of. Is that one thing we don't see HBCUs doing, as well as maybe the alternative schools, other upper level colleges and universities?
I think what it is more so of the understanding of technology and what it actually takes from an athletic perspective. I think some of the other schools have better rehabilitation facilities. I think they understand the programs. I think they're funded better. So even from a resource perspective, just the visibility into the game and the knowledge of the body itself seems to be a lot more on the Division I side of your upper echelon colleges than it would HBCU.
So even though you obviously went to UAB, and what we're going to do right now is, and this happens, guys, so don't panic. It happens. We're changing mics here, so we're going to continue the conversation. But one thing that we're going to ask you, Mr. Nigel, is, so you chose UAB, right? Any regrets there? Talk to us just briefly about your whole college experience. Give us an in-depth inside look of what someone from Augusta, Georgia experiences at UAB.
Well, getting to UAB, I went to Lanier High School in Montgomery, Alabama, and we had several key scholar athletes leave that high school, from Bart Starr all the way to Tavares Jackson, which were all within the same time frame of myself. I chose UAB along with a couple of my other teammates at the same time, so we were all like, we go up together like a big family.
Yeah.
And in the recruiting phase of it, everybody sells you these, what I consider pipe dreams. It's you're going to come into the school, you're going to be a starter, we're going to take care of you, don't worry about anything. And they hang you your jersey when you come in these recruited visits, and it's got your name on them, and they tape you at the stadium, and your name goes across the board, and you hear the fans screaming, and they show you all the highlights and insights of being there at that university. Yeah. So everything positive is what you're visualizing, and you don't see the negative or the transverse in the day-to-day activity of the actual student athlete. Mm-hmm. So getting to UAB, my freshman year, they had actually picked up 2 junior college guys from Montgomery also.
Wow, competition.
Yeah, so they told me I was going to come in and start along with everybody else that they told,
Let's see who works harder.
Let's see who works. Let's see who really wants it.
Yeah.
And I'm in here with these junior college guys who are in their 20s and grown men,
right.
Big body grown men guys, and
with experience.
And here's little Nigel coming in trying to make a name for himself. Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest struggles that I considered in that whole aspect was just the inability to adapt to a new environment and just becoming a small fish in a big pond. If you think about it, even in high school or middle school, I was a scholar athlete all the way around, from track to football to wrestling, and now I'm just another name at a university. I got a couple write-ups in the paper initially, but okay, now are you really prepared to make a name for yourself? So those are some of the struggles I had, and I got homesick getting on campus, getting checked into the dorm, actually going to practice, hanging out with the guys. It was good at first because, you're getting away from mom, and you got an opportunity to kind of sit around and see what the guys are going to do, and you don't have a curfew, and you're just hanging out, And then the reality kind of sets in once practice starts, 2-a-days. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm 217 pounds, and the average linebacker at the time was about 240, 250 pounds. I got some weight to put on.
Yeah.
So my coach kind of sized me up a little bit and said, hey, I want you to think about redshirting this year.
Dun, dun, dun. Which basically means
you're not ready to play here.
Yeah.
And so there's a sign of depression throughout that whole phase that I was like, wow, here I am making a decision at 17 and trusting in you all that you had my best interest in mind, and I get here and I find out that it's not your time yet. So going through the phase of really looking at what are they saying to me, Is it that I'm not good enough, or am I not their guy? You know, and I'm looking at other guys that coming in as a freshman that are actually getting playing time.
Yeah.
So it was a struggle for me, and on a day-to-day basis, I just continued to kind of self-reflect. And it actually pushed me to the point to where I was like, you know what? If I'm not their guy today, eventually I'll get there.
Really quick, I'm going to pause you because you brought up something interesting. I don't know if you saw it, but there is this clip floating around now of Tyson Fury. You know, he just beat Deontay Wilder, becomes the heavyweight champion of the world. So he has this interview with Rich Eisen, and during the interview, he talked about how just about 2 years ago, he was going to end his life. The prime of his career, getting ready to, I think he said he was going 160 miles per hour in his sports car over a bridge, and that was it, period. He was done. And he heard a voice say, and he talks about his relationship with Christ, this is not what you want to do. This is not the way out. Pulls over, calls his dad, tells his dad he needs help. Long story short, he gets counseling. But one thing he talked about is, even after you get counseling, it's an everyday battle to make a decision to not continue to fall into that depression.
Right.
Now, that is a grown adult 32-year-old man. You're going through this at 17, 18 years old.
Right.
And in the situation that you expressed to us earlier, mom was on probation, not sure if your dad was around, but how do you really, what helps you to have a optimistic outlook on, well, if I'm not their guy today, maybe I'll be that guy tomorrow? How do you do that at 17, 18 years old?
I think the struggles that I had as a child, again, my mom being arrested at an early age and me having to step up and take the forefront of a male figure or as the leader in a home initially kind of helped me with that drive. I don't know if I actually shared with you that I gave my life to Christ early at the age of 7.
Okay.
So I had a very strong religious background, and I believed in God, and I knew that He wouldn't leave me, if anything less. So I stood by that and just continued to drive and thrive in what I felt He was leading me towards in my gifting. I knew that I was special even at the age of 6. I was one of the biggest guys on the field. But keep in mind, I'm the runt of my family, so if that tells you anything, I had a lot of growth and a lot of battles as a kid, playing with my siblings and with my older cousins. So I knew that I needed to make a change for myself, but I had to internalize a lot of the pain and hurt and show it on the performance field. So everything that I kind of internalized, I showed it in football because that was my opportunity to release anger, stress, frustration. And you'll see a lot of key players, they do that. If you look at a lot of their backgrounds, they're battered homes. They're separate homes. They're single parent homes. They're raised by their grandparents, and they're struggling. There are kids today that are continuing to struggle in this lane, but their only outlets are through sports.